Sin. What do you think of when you hear that word? Maybe you think of, wicked deeds, bad things like murder, theft, adultery, darkness, and people who love dark things. And while that's true of sin, of course it is, the Bible also describes sin in other ways. Hebrews 11 verses 24 to 25 reads like this. By faith Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer the affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 12 reads that they all may be condemned who do not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. The first ever recorded sin was committed by Adam and Eve, and they ate fruit. Now that doesn't sound very sinful, does it? Fruit's nice, isn't it? Fruit's lovely. In fact, the Bible records that when Eve saw the fruit, she saw that it was good to eat. But you see, it was disobedience. Even though it was nice, and there's nothing wrong with eating fruit, we're told that we should eat 5 of them a day, God had told them not to eat of that particular tree, and they disobeyed. There was a rock band, U2, some of you might know them, and they penned a song called Running to Stand Still. And in that song there's a lyric that says, sweet the sin, bitter the taste in my mouth. So the sin is sweet and enjoyable, but it leaves an aftertaste, and not a pleasant one. Now, when my girls were younger, we used to give them sweets. Well-meaning relatives used to give them sweets. They used to have loads of sweets, and we used to encourage them to keep their sweets, to eat a few and then keep their sweets in the tin, but always to put their sweets away. My girls, being my girls, never usually did that. They usually left sweets lying around, and being the good father that I am, and wanted to take care of their teeth, I would eat their sweets. And one morning in particular, I came down to the kitchen to see a great big bag of miniature chalky coins, little chalky drops. And I thought, nom nom, I'll have some of those. So I grabbed a fistful of them and stuffed them in my mouth. But instead of getting that really nice chocolatey sweet taste, it was bitter and quite disgusting. So I thought, I've got a rogue chocolate there. So in order to test that theory, the rogue chocolate theory, I stuck my hand in again and stuffed another fistful of chocolate drops in my mouth. Same experience. I was expecting nice sweet stuff, got a bitter taste, a nasty bitter taste. So it was at that point I thought I'd pick up the bag and have a look at it, just to see if it was out of date or whatever, only to discover that I had indeed stuffed 2 fistfuls of medicated rabbit treats into my face, and they had worming agent in them. Now, the only positive about that experience was, of course, that I don't have worms. But you see, I knew that stealing sweets from my daughters was a wrong thing to do. However, I tried to justify it. And I was expecting it to taste nice, and it didn't. It was frankly disappointing. So the words from that song by U2, sweet the sin, bitter the taste in the mouth, was very true from that point of view. So if sin was all about bad things, it might be easy to resist it. But sin is often an enjoyable thing. It promises fulfillment sometimes, doesn't it? It satisfies our desires. So if sin is enjoyable, why should I stop? Well, the answers are in Hebrews 11 and 2 Thessalonians 2. So Moses chose rather to suffer the affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Okay? And in 2 Thessalonians, that they all may be condemned who do not believe the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. So if we take Hebrews 11 to start with, Moses chose not to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Things don't last. Sins, whatever they promise you, quite often leave you with that bitter taste in your mouth. They don't fulfill your desires. They don't fill that hole that you're trying to fill. They quite often leave you disappointed. And ultimately, we're all going to die, aren't we? I don't know however many years we've got. Nobody knows how long you're going to live. But even if you live to the ripe old age of 100, that's nothing in comparison to eternity. We can only enjoy the pleasures of sin in this life, certainly not the next. And that's the other thing, as it says in 2 Thessalonians 2, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So not only do these sins not last and will not last, and they do not fulfill, and they do not provide you the satisfaction that you're after, they also condemn you. And they condemn you for all eternity. Because when you die, you are going to meet God in eternity. And he's going to want to know whether you believed in him or whether you rejected him. He already knows the answer to that, obviously. So you stand to spend eternity in either heaven or hell. And eternity is forever. It's a concept that we can't get our heads around. But it's forever. Not for 20, 30, 40, 100 years, however long we've got on this earth. It's forever. So are you going to spend eternity in heaven, in God's love, in paradise? Or are you going to spend eternity in hell because you chased the pleasures of sin for the season you have here on earth, and you rejected God? But it's not all bad news, of course. Sin does have a cure. And that cure comes from God, the God that we offend by sinning. Isn't that gracious that he provided a cure for us despite the fact that we rejected him and that we went to chose to go our own way? He's provided this cure through Jesus Christ. Jesus, who came to this earth, who lived a perfect life. He did not sin at all, and then took the punishment that we deserve. And you can hear more about that wonderful Jesus Christ. You can hear more about that wonderful salvation. You can hear more about that cure if you tune in on this YouTube channel to the live streaming of our services on Sundays, morning and evening. And then we also have Bible studies on a Wednesday with our prayer meeting, so you can delve deeper into the wonderful love of Jesus Christ. And I encourage you to do that. So I'd like you to think about those things. I'd like you to think about the fact that sin is only for a season and that it leads to condemnation. And ask yourself, am I right with God? How can I be right with God? And ask him to come into your heart.